Freemasonry, the secretive organization that is present in many American communities, and yet is deeply mysterious to many. I want to take a few minutes to explore what Freemasonry is, and why so many of us find it compelling, and an important part of our lives. I am a Freemason, and my home lodge is under the jurisdiction of the Grand Lodge of the state of California. So my perspective on Freemasonry is that of a Californian. There is no Grand Lodge of the United States, nor any governing authority above that of a state Grand Lodge. So I can't speak to the experience of Masons in other jurisdictions. Most Grand Lodges, however, operate within the rules and rituals that are derivations of the Grand Lodge of England, which was formed by a merger of earlier competing Freemasonic groups in the year 1711 in London, England. So as a California Freemason, I cannot tell you exactly what it's like to be a Freemason in other jurisdictions. I can say, however, that the experiences are roughly similar, in that we all trace our origins to the Grand Lodge of England. I was inspired to do this video when I was compiling a list of the most influential books that I've ever read, and I was thinking about putting the Masonic Cipher down as one of those books. It's also known as the Ritual Manual for the first 3 degrees of Masonry. But I decided against it. While the Book of Masonic Ritual is a book in the literal sense of the word, in that it has printed pages, it's bound, it's not a book in the sense that any English reader can pick it up and read it. First off, it's in cipher, which you need to be taught how to read by another Freemason. But even if you were able to crack the cipher, the true power of the document would be lost. There are English translations of Masonic rituals that have been surreptitiously published on the internet, and you can probably find it through an online search. But merely reading the words does not capture the experience of the rituals. The closest thing I can compare it to is the experience of falling in love. You could read all the books you want on the experience of falling in love, but until you've actually experienced a romantic relationship with another person, the idea is merely an abstraction. So if I had to define Freemasonry, I would say that it is a fraternity. To help understand what a fraternity is, I will contrast it with a club. And while they have many similar aspects in common, they are fundamentally different. A club is formed for some mutual purpose. For example, the Rotary or Kiwanis Club are organizations where people join together to do community service and charity, while also serving as a source for business networking. Other examples of club might be amateur sports leagues, which are formed for the purposes of allowing members to participate in sports that they enjoy. While a fraternity does have elements of club membership, there are also deeper aspects involved. In a fraternity, the members not only bind themselves to the organization, but they bind themselves to each other. In Freemasonry, you take various oaths and make various promises when you become a member. Among them is that you will look out for the welfare of your brother Freemasons, as well as the welfare of his widow and orphans should he die. This obligation to look out for one another's welfare is not typically shared by most clubs. While Freemasonry does do many community service and charitable activities, this is not the primary focus of the organization, like it is with Rotary or Kiwanis Club. So what is the primary focus of Freemasonry? The stated purpose is captured through the tagline, to make good men better. And this is accomplished through the initiatic experience of going through the degrees of Freemasonry. I'm not going to get into the specific details of Freemasonry degrees, but I will speak generally about the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry, also known as the Blue Lodge degrees, and the lessons that are taught. The first 3 degrees are the Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and Master Mason, which correspond to the 3 phases of man's life. Entered Apprentice relates to youth, Fellow Craft to adulthood, and Master Mason to maturity and eventual death. Going into these degrees, the initiate has no idea what he's about to encounter. There is some minor preparation beforehand, but for the most part, he has no idea what's going to happen next. The degree is heavily scripted, with no allowance for derivation from the standard ritual prescribed by the Grand Lodge. So every initiate experiences an essentially identical initiation as every other Freemason, and probably as close as humanly possible to every other Masonic initiation going back to at least 1711, and maybe even older than that. So what exactly is done during these rituals? And again, I will not divulge specifics, but I will say generally that various symbols are used to impart lessons to the initiate that are important for various stages of man's life. Freemasons historically built the castles and cathedrals of Europe, and the degrees use the symbols of construction to discuss important aspects of a man's journey through life. To use myself as an example, I joined a fraternity when I was 26 years old, and I went through the 3 degrees in a little under a year. At that time, I considered myself as being on the tail end of youth, as I had recently finished my education and state licensing requirements. At 26, I was trying to get my career going, and I was not yet married. I would have considered myself in the transition phase of my journey to full adulthood. The ritual of the entered apprentice degree helped me put into context the experiences I had as a young man, trying to make my way into the world. The next degree of Freemasonry is Fellowcraft degree, which deals with the middle years of man's life. Although I was not yet in this phase of life when I received the Fellowcraft degree, it did give me plenty of food for thought and a roadmap for the next phase of life. As I'm recording this video, I'm currently 41 years old and have a wife and child and a career. And I could say that the lessons taught in the Fellowcraft degree definitely apply to my current stage of life. Furthermore, as I have received the 3rd degree, I have an idea of what will be in store for me in the next phase. I should also point out that although you only receive the degrees once, if you are an active Freemason, you will likely see the degrees performed for new members many times in your Masonic career. And if you become an officer, you will participate in putting on the degrees. I can say that I have experienced all the degrees dozens of times. And although I have the ritual more or less memorized, it is no less powerful each time I see it. For example, even though I am a middle-aged man, I can still sit through the entered apprentice degree and remember and reflect on the lessons that I learned and the experiences I had during that time of my life. I also want to point out that there's nothing claimed to be supernatural that occurs during any of the degrees of Freemasonry. I personally do not believe in the supernatural, and I would not want to be a part of an organization that promoted such beliefs. But Freemasonry does not do this. Although it is a traditional requirement for membership that a person express a belief in God, there is nothing supernatural about Masonic rituals. Although men of many faiths join the fraternity, there's no requirement that new members subscribe to any particular set of beliefs about God or religion. I once heard a former Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the State of California give a speech in which he admitted that he had no belief in a personal God, but that he defined God as the natural laws that govern the universe. I myself no longer believe in any religion, but like the former Grand Master, I believe that the universe came about and is governed by various laws of physics and mathematics, without there being a personality behind it. This concept is similar to the understanding of God expressed by philosopher Baruch Spinoza. For purposes of membership, I believe that the natural laws of the universe are God. But someone on the outside world might rightly categorize me as an atheist, and I would not object to that categorization. The message and teachings of the degrees have elements of practical philosophy in them. Someone who's acquainted with the writings of the Stoic school of philosophy might find familiar elements, but this is not the sole focus of the degree. There's nothing that I can compare Masonic ritual to, as I've not experienced anything like it in any other area of my life. The kinds of lessons taught in the degrees are reminders and reflections of the kinds of things that a wise and introspective person should learn about life and himself as he gets older. Or to put it in other words, the stated mission is to make good men better. One of the unique features about Freemasonry is the fact that it's one of the few modern organizations that precludes women from membership. I believe that the reason for this is that the life journey of a man is different than that of a woman, and the 3 degrees of Freemasonry are focused on the masculine experience. I think that a woman would find much of the degree inapplicable to her life experience. A woman cannot know what it is to be a son or a father in the same way that a man cannot know what it is to be a daughter or a mother. Even if the Grand Lodge were to change the rules and allow women to participate in Masonic degrees, she would merely be going through the motions and would not be able to relate to the deeper meaning of the ritual. Again, I want to emphasize that women are not excluded from having initiatic experiences. I'm just saying that the specific rituals of the 3 degrees of Freemasonry are inappropriate for those of the female gender and sex. I would, however, like to point out that there is Eastern Star, which is an appendant organization to Freemasonry and has degrees in which women participate and which are more applicable to the feminine experience. My wife joined the Eastern Star, and she was deeply moved by the lessons taught in that ritual. I should also like to point out that although women are excluded from Masonic ritual and meetings, they do participate in almost every other aspect. My lodge does various social and community functions, and my wife and daughter participate along with me in these events. I'm not as active in Freemasonry as I used to be. Ironically, the lessons taught in the Fellowcraft degree about the prioritization of family have caused me to step aside for a season while my daughter is in her childhood. I hope that in years to come, as she matures and finds her own way in the world, that I will go back and be more active again. But as of right now, I believe that the best way to live the lessons taught to me in the rituals is to focus on family in this season of my life. Freemasonry is very important to me, not only as a way of thinking about my life, but as a close bond that I share with the brothers in my lodge. Some of my closest and oldest friends are the guys I know from the fraternity, and I know that if I'm ever in a jam, then I can rely on them, and they know that I am here for them. Over the 15 years that I have been a Freemason, I have had times when I have had to ask for assistance from my fellow Freemasons, and times when I have lent assistance to them, and in several cases to their widows. Many parts of modern society, with its ubiquitous technology and social isolation, have lost a sense of community that we Freemasons and our families enjoy. If what I have said discussed interests you, and you are a man of good and moral character, then I'd encourage you to reach out to your local Masonic lodge or Grand Lodge and ask to visit one of their open events. You may find, as I did when I joined in 2008, that the best and the closest friends that you will ever have in life are waiting to meet you.